Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Life is full of emotion. Life is full of feelings. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to think about this for a second. How do you know what you're feeling at a given time? What emotion are you feeling? What is that feeling? You could say, I'm feeling love. How do you know it's love? Maybe you're confused about what you're feeling at any given time. How do you identify what that feeling is? We're going to talk about that today. It's so important, I truly believe. And she helps people uncover their feelings all the time. First of all, with some wonderful books, including this one, which is called Love Yourself, Love Your Life. And today we're digging into chapter 2 of that book. She's an amazing psychologist, and she's Dr. Ann Creekmore, and she's back with us. Hi, how you doing, Ann?
Great, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good.
I like that.
I know I am.
Go with the good. What's good?
But that could change. That could change. That could change in 30 seconds because life is like that.
Right.
How do you know what you're feeling at a given time? And I know maybe that's kind of a rhetorical question, but we go through so many different stages of emotions. How do you really put a label on what you might be feeling, or maybe you're not sure what you're feeling? How do you identify it?
Well, if I was working with a client, or even just right now with you, what I would say is that sometimes I would just say, hey, we've got my workbook. Let's look up the feeling chart. And I don't know if you've got that, could kind of hold it up so people could see, or I could hold it up so people could see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Why don't you hold it up? Let's see it, because I think it's clearer.
I don't know. You tell me whether it is clear or not. But it's in chapter 2, Feel Your Feelings. Is that clear at all?
Go a little bit closer.
Okay.
And come down a little bit.
Okay.
And come over to the side.
Which side?
It's hard to tell because the other side. That's how we.
The other side.
There we go. So I see it's a plateau, and there's certain core feelings, and then there's feelings underneath that.
Correct. Yes.
And there's all different categories of those feelings. Like, for example, love, aka happiness. There's feelings that come underneath that.
Correct.
And it goes anywhere from happy all the way down to playful. Then we have, what's below the feeling of being afraid, what's below fear, and onward. How does that chart actually work? Tell us.
Do you see where it talks about fear, false evidence appearing real?
One of my favorite acronyms, yes.
Yes, because we have love versus fear, and love is letting go of fear. We really want to stay on the side of the feelings of love, of happiness at all times. But at times we start to feel, anger of some sort, which is the tip of the iceberg telling us that something's bothering us. And you see that in the middle with the negative feelings.
Yep.
And kind of what tells you it's time to clarify yourself, not to act out, not to share anything or vent at that time. It's more like hunger. You're saying, like I'm hungry, and that means I need to physically nourish myself. I'm feeling angry. Could be any type of anger, annoyance, irate, furious, frustration. Any feeling like anger is just a secondary emotion that's telling you, hey, there's something going on with me. I need to figure out what that is. And so I need to go below. That's why it says what's below. Is there fear feelings, afraid below the anger, or is there sad feelings below the anger? And then what you can do is just look at the chart. The easiest thing, if you have it, you can take a picture of it and have it on your phone, or just have it in your fridge, your bedroom mirror, or whatever. And you can just kind of look, well, underneath this frustration or whatever stress I'm feeling, I got to get to my real feelings. And that's either you're feeling sad about something or you're feeling scared or anxious about something. So then you look down the list and you pick, what really describes it? If I'm sad, am I feeling some grief? Am I feeling lost? Am I feeling down? Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling disappointed or hurt? Under like the afraid or the anxious would be like, well, am I feeling overwhelmed? Do I feel apprehensive? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel inadequate? What kind of anxious or afraid feelings am I having? So once you've identified your feelings, you're going to be able to then work with those feelings and try to understand them. And this particular chapter helps you. The first step is just to remember that anger is just a secondary emotion, kind of a defensive emotion to make you realize you need to do something for yourself emotionally. But you don't want to stay there. You want to go deeper and find out what you really are feeling. And then, but once you figure out what you're feeling, then you can go and do something to make yourself get to the love, what you're supposed to be feeling, the happiness, the good feelings.
And we've skimmed that before, and I've even had that debate with friends before, that anger isn't really anger. It's not really an emotion. It's other emotions or an emotion that presents itself as anger.
It's a tip of the iceberg. I call it. That was kind of the iceberg analogy. You can see the tip of it, like you're going down, you see an iceberg, you see the tip of ice, but there's a lot more ice and other things below. And that's what you want to get at. You want to clarify that.
How about when you're, let's say you're sad, and you don't know what it is, maybe a situation, but you're not even sure what it is. Was it that situation, or I'm just feeling somber today?
Right.
How do you go layers deeper to try and identify what's going on in your mind?
Well, I do like to look at that chart because a lot of people don't really, don't have all the labels they need. And you can just go right online and look at feeling chart or faces or whatever, but just kind of try to identify what really relates to it. Like if you're sad, are you feeling disappointed about something? You feel rejected about something? You feel hurt? You're just feeling blue, down, whatever. Sometimes you can even put it into an image, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Like somebody might say, I'm feeling kind of sad or down. And like, well, what's that feel like if it was a picture? It's like, well, I'm just in this deep pit and I can't really see out, it's all dark and it just be a visual. Then, you can take it deeper to kind of ask yourself. It's always good to ask yourself a question, whether it's a trigger of something, because most time it is a trigger, and just say, well, I feel like, I'm hurt or rejected and feeling inadequate. And then you say, well, when did I feel this way before? When I was growing up or when I was in some relationship, or what was going on? What that I've identified that it's probably is a trigger for some past pain that I haven't truly grieved yet, or I haven't released it yet. And then you can even take it further and say, yeah, this is really reminding me of when I was in school, and I got bullied or and that's what it's feeling like to me. So something has triggered that to bring it up for healing, so that you can release it and not hold it subconsciously and get triggered again. Kind of like having a little wound. Somebody just accidentally touches that part of your arm that's sore, and then, you're hurt again. But you won't have it if you heal it, if you kind of can grieve it, remember it, get it out of your system, instead of being an open sore to be touched and re-triggered.
What do you think? And again, this, more of a hypothetical, but when something is challenging us, certain feelings are there, negative emotions. So let's identify that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What percentage would you say it's probably something from your past, a trigger from your past? What do you think? Is it like probably, we could say generally, like 75% chance that it's.
I think John Gray, who did all the work, The Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus book for the couples therapy, said he found it was like 90% of what the couples would bring up, it would be past pain. It wasn't even really anything significant about the current little conflict they were having. It was like 90%. So I don't know. I would say a lot of it, even if there is some accuracy that you might want to express something, that have it different. Why didn't you just set a boundary, for example? You know what I mean? Like if you're feeling a certain way with something, you have control of yourself, your thoughts, your life, your behaviors, and just set a boundary and just don't let the person necessarily do that to you again. What it is, because it's like you're getting so overwhelmed with the past stuff and the past triggers, and you're kind of in a helpless state at that time or never did resolve it, that you just aren't, your brain isn't thinking about how do I do this a little bit differently, so that I don't have this re-experience of my past trauma.
You could have had a relationship that ended, and then you entered, I'm going really hypothetical here, but
Sure.
That happened. Then you were in another relationship, but there's a pretty good chance that there's similarity here to the previous relationship. There might be qualities in that person that this person had. Why did you seek them out here? Because you liked it here, or you're comfortable with it. Then this relationship ended. Now you're over here. You may feel sadness, sorrow that it ended, but it goes back to the one before that. Or it could go back to your childhood, and it's just those layers. You know what I'm saying?
Right. There's this therapist couple created imago therapy, and they put it out in their book, Getting the Love You Want, which relates to what you're talking about in couples. They found they both had gotten divorced, and they found they didn't want to repeat this pattern. They started to realize that what happens is you get attracted, say, to somebody that has some of the good qualities that you're looking for, but also probably has some of those negative qualities that one of your parents or both had, that you still didn't get quite that love. But it feels like love. It feels like home, because you used to have been raised by your parents. And so you kind of get attracted to them with the unconscious belief that, now I'm going to get the love you really want. But the problem is that you're carrying around that image. It's called imago therapy. And you're carrying around that image, and couples, until they become aware of what they're thinking subconsciously or feeling up subconsciously, they wind up repeating and reenacting the pattern. They see the person as being withholding or being mean or whatever they're seeing that they felt they didn't, that they were hurt from as a child. And then they can either see it in them, even if it's not there, or they can provoke it in them, because you can provoke someone to get mad at you. It's not a conscious thing, but it just starts to repeat itself unless you really become aware of yourself. It's that self-discovery before relationship is so important.
It's funny you should say that. Now, I'm very honest. I'm going to say, and to back this up, I was in a relationship with somebody, and this is in the last 5 years. And it was good. It ended. There were lots of good things there. But, and let me preface this by saying I had a wonderful relationship with my mom. It's all good. However, when I look back and toward the end of the relationship with this person, I realized that my mom had anxiety, but I didn't realize it, until way later in life.
Sure.
And then I realized that this person had a lot of anxiety. And now to crystallize your point here, Anne, toward the very end of this relationship, it dawned on me when this person would laugh in certain ways, it was my mom's laugh.
Yes.
Freaky weird.
Very insightful. You got some really good insight there.
Well,
right?
It takes time to figure that stuff out.
But
it goes to your point how we pick relationships based on our parents.
Exactly. It felt like home, just that
familiarity, right?
That giggle or even that anxiety, were things that felt comfortable. And it's like, this feels like mom, who I love, and this is love.
But it can also go in a negative direction. And I'll give an example here. That I found myself meeting people and engaging in relationships with people that have lots of anxiety. We all have anxiety. That's all good. But elevated levels of, and not that my mom had a lot. She was overprotective of me and my sister. However, that kept showing up. And when, like they say, we're like a magnet for certain things. We put out certain signals and it comes back to us. And I notice a pattern of, that person has anxiety. And what do I wind up being? The nurturer. I'm the therapist, and it's fun in the beginning, but I don't do that anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Were you a little bit of were you the oldest or were you the second born? and with your sister.
I'm oldest by 15 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you're twins.
Yeah.
Well, you're the oldest still.
Yeah, I am. and wiser, I'll have you know.
Wiser, of course. Yes.
But it's interesting.
And you're the boy, and you've got that masculine role as well. Did you tend to be a little bit of a parental child at times with mom? When you got old enough to be where you would, or for your sister, where you did start taking a role a little bit codependently, we would call it, with people who have anxiety. Did you kind of learn that in your home situation, how to kind of keep things calm or give people support?
No, it's a great question. I didn't realize that until after my mom passed. And this is only in the last, 5 years or so.
Yes.
That, I didn't even realize, that mom had anxiety until I thought back. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, she did. She was worried about stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then and the way I figured that out was those people kept showing up in my life. And, I guess I was, the nurturer to my mom and would be there in that capacity. And now I was in that capacity for others, but I guess I attracted it. Now it's on my radar. And I will say in that one relationship where she left like my mom, I really helped her along. She had a lot of challenges due to her life, and it was all good. But I wound up in that role. And after a while you realize, I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to overfunction for someone. You don't want to be in the codependent. You want to have a give and take relationship where you feel you're being nurtured, and then you nurture back. Right.
Yeah. But, to your point, I wanted to share that we pick people like our parents. Have you noticed that with others or even in yourself?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's a common theme when I do relationship couples therapy. I mean, that's one of the things we focus on. People will get that insight that they are kind of repeating their patterns from their childhood, and not usually in a good way if they've had to come to therapy. They didn't just usually come like, well, I think I'd like to do some self-discovery. Usually some problems are going on that get people to come in. So it's gotten to the point where you're starting to polarize each other somewhat. So yes, very much. I agree. Mm-hmm.
So we talk about the negative emotions, and then we try to figure out, where they're coming from. What about the positive ones? Or does it even matter?
Well, I mean, what I always say to people, they come in and they say that, how you doing? And they say, I'm doing good. And I'm like, that's great. Let's focus on that first. I mean, it's always good to talk about the good, because the more you focus on it, the more it grows. So it's never inappropriate in therapy to be talking about good things going on in life and just keep enjoying them and helping them grow. And hopefully that's where you get over the course of therapy, that you're starting to come in more with, oh yeah, this is better, this is good. And, and you can focus more and more on it. And looking at what you've been doing that has made it that way for yourself, the things you've learned, the way you've grown, and, pat yourself on the back for all those good things. Sure. So it's great to focus. I mean, ideally, it'd be good for us to just stay in a nice place of feeling love, self-love and feeling good and happiness all the time.
Well, I want to pick your brain on this one for a moment.
Sure.
I feel one of the best ways to do that, the positive side, is to go back to your childhood. Example, over the weekend, I had a project and did it by myself. And it was just, here, just doing some work, in the studio. I loved doing that stuff as a kid. So I intentionally set the day. That's what I'm doing. I played my music. Nobody was around, blasted it, sang, just was a kid again. And I was like, this feels good. I felt like I was back to my old kid self. And think about it. You probably were the happiest in your life when you were a kid.
That's an excellent example. And congratulations. That sounds wonderful. Because when I work with people on being whole, fulfilled people, which is really to get you at a place of contentment, looking at your mind, body, spirit, you're fulfilling yourself, taking care of your health and taking care of your inner peace and your mental stimulation, emotional, social life, so on. You're wanting to look at your life. Like you said, you go back, a lot of people go, well, I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what I want. I'm like, well, think about when you were a child and when you felt high, not from a drug in some way, of course, but when it was a natural high. Like, did you just you're outside and you're just, you're just bouncing a ball? I mean, or, you're for me, I learned that I really like dance because of gym class, probably second, third grade, we did some square dancing. And I just thought it was so much fun. And even though I never really took that much dance when I was a child, I ended up picking it up, college around then. And I have loved it ever since. It was like, I just have this natural feeling of a high from that. So it's perfect. Yes, that's the way you want to discover yourself. Think back when you were a child and what were those natural high moments you've experienced, and how can you do them now? I mean, it may be the exact same, not, going to square dance gym class student, but you can go take many dance classes. You've got a lot of choices. And so you just think back and then apply it to now and put it on your radar, put it on your appointment book, just start doing those things. Like try to get an hour, 2 hours a day. Something that makes you feel happy.
But you need to be intentional. You need to think back. And I'm going to share a 20-second story here to illustrate that. So I was in my 20s. I want to say, mid 20s. I was still living at home. I had built a studio in my room and then in the basement. And that's what I loved doing. Like I always wanted to be on. I was actually working at a big radio station at that time, but I had my studio at home. I would make tapes. It was fun. Had Saturday off one day. Now, I'm not a kid. I'm in my 20s. And that made me so happy that Saturday, I ran down the steps to the basement. I'm like, got the Saturday off. This is going to be great. I'm going to do it. And I jumped up at the last step, hit the metal door frame, knocked myself unconscious.
Oh, my goodness.
I get up. Yeah, I'm bleeding, whatever. In the end, I needed stitches. But I was so happy. I jumped up because it was like, this is great. I got the day off. I'm going to do this and do that. Short of hitting myself in the head, knocking myself out. I did that over the weekend. But it was the same kind of joy. But
and
just,
you didn't care, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, back when that happened, and I waited all day. I didn't want to, confront that I need to get stitches. And my friend came over at the time. My girlfriend's over, and we're sitting there. My friend's looking at my head like 6 hours later. He's like, dude, I think you need stitches. And I'm like, So I go to the urgent care place. And the first thing I said to them, do whatever you got to do. Don't cut my hair. So they actually pieced it. They sewed it up. But that was what I was concerned about in my 20s. But finding that joy as a kid, we can do it in our lives now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times anxiety can just be from your own lack of self-care, being your authentic self and expressing yourself, taking care of your mind, body, spirit, and your authentic ways.
Feel your feelings. That's what it's come down to.
That's the good ones too. Yes.
Yeah. Book is fantastic. You have books. I love this one. I love them all, but that one is like I call it the handbook to life. How do we find that book? How do we find out more about you?
Yes, the easiest way, I think, is just to go to Psychology Today, and you can look me up, Ann Creekmore. It's just, directory of psychologists, and look me, Ann Creekmore, with an E, silent E with an A, end of Ann. And then I just have a link there to my website. You'll find me with a picture and all it is a link, and just click it. Actually, sometimes I've found out later you've got to go show website or something too. There may be one little extra step. Some people have a hard time. But you'll have everything right there. You'll have, books and my phone number and my email and all about my practice, whole person kind of therapy type practice.
Sure. And in addition to the books, you're there to help people find their joy, find their feelings, and
Absolutely.
You can do it virtually anywhere. And great having you on here and talking about feelings. I always feel great when you're here. Lots of insight.
Thank you. Me too. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Take care.
We're coming right back.
Hi. I'm Dr. Ann Creekmore. I want you to know that you have the power to shine your light and be a magnificent, authentic person that you are in your mind, body, and spirit, and to have a wonderful, fulfilled life. I have written several books, but the one I'm sharing about is Love Yourself, Love Your Life. I want you to have that book so you can start healing the emotional wounds of the past and release any negative subconscious beliefs that are holding you back so you can become the whole, fulfilled, happy person you're meant to be. Please feel free to contact me. You can find me on Psychology Today, which links into my website. Thank you. Blessings and love.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This is you over 30 years ago.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And this is your mom when you drive her back from therapy.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Roles change without us noticing, and in your new role, we help you help. AARP gives you the information to help care for your mom so that you can have patience with her, just like she did with you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving or call 1-877-333-5885 to get practical health and wellness tips to provide even better care for your loved one.
Are we there yet?
Remember, visit aarp.org/caregiving. AARP, we help you help. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.